in Elkhart Lake, Wisconsin. This is the NTT IndyCar Series. With complete coverage of today's practice, this is the IndyCar Radio Network.
Paraphrasing our good friend Marshall Pruitt, welcome to God's gift to motorsports. Beautiful Road America, Elkhart Lake, the Sanzio Grand Prix at Road America, presented by AMR. Coming up this weekend, Mark James and Davey Hamilton. And Davey, the first thing you notice here at Road America, and we're going to talk about it plenty because it's going to do some incredible things to the speeds here. We're talking about the new paving project.
Yeah, what an outstanding job they've done on this 4-mile course, Mark. I mean, it's been a lot of work to do this for sure, and it's smooth as glass. Times are fast. We're going to see how fast they are here momentarily. The Indy Next cars, obviously, about 10 of them faster than the track record. So, but what a job and what a different appearance, Mark. This asphalt was so old, it almost looked like concrete, almost white. Well, now with that brand new asphalt laid down, it's the black surface and the bright white lines painted on, the curbing's bright. It's a whole different look, but I think these drivers are going to enjoy it once they get on this track and try it out.
Took about 860 dump trucks to get all the old asphalt out of here. Some 800 dump trucks brought new material in. This all began in October of last year. It was completed in November. And I think the thing that they did, and they used lasers and all kinds of the latest technology, Davey, they did everything they could. While they put down a new surface, they wanted to put the characteristics of the track exactly, leave it exactly the way it is, and I think they've done a good job with that.
Yeah, they sure have, and I look forward to tomorrow, Mark, the first time I'm able to get on track, and I'll really be able to give you a good indication of exactly the difference. And I know it's smooth. I know there's no bumps anywhere, and just to feel the additional speed and grip is going to be exciting, and just if it changes anything of the characteristics of this track, which it shouldn't because it's the same exact layout, but I look forward to getting on it and really being able to give our listeners a first-hand look of my opinion of it.
And so some of the other amenities that have been added, a new carousel viewing trail for the fans, a new beach viewing area complete with beach chairs and palm trees, new lighting in the paddock, and some other wayfinding signage and wood carvings. And Davey, you talk about that new beach area for fans. Not really beachy weather, but still a pretty nice day all in all.
Well, they got palm trees there, and they got sand, so it's just like a beach, just like being in the west coast of California, per se. So, really, this facility, Mark, as you know, every year that we come back here, they just continue to impress. And today, just going around the facility early on and seeing how many campers, how many golf carts, by the way, that these campers and these spectators bring around this huge facility to be able to motor around and see pretty much every corner they can. It's just very, very impressive. And you got to love how many fans are already here on this Friday for practice, and they're going to continue to come throughout the weekend.
So it's a little over 4 miles in length, 14 turns in all. At its narrowest point, it's 32 feet. It's plenty wide around this track. Some very forgiving runoff areas, but Davey, let's head around here. Let's take a lap, if you will. You waste little time in being challenged because turn number 1, it's a right-hander, and while it seems plenty forgiving, it's anything but that.
Yeah, we've seen that already in the Indy Next. It's so fast. You go down this front straightaway, Mark, 6th gear, 180 miles an hour, and when you turn down into turn 1, you only have to go down to 3rd. It's a really fast right-hander. But the Indy Next, they've thought, well, hey, there's so much grip, they're going to even go faster. A lot of mistakes, a lot of runoffs down there. We'll see if the IndyCar Series does that as well. But as you said, that turn 1, one of the most exciting passing zones, too, I think, at this racetrack because it's high commitment, and we see a lot of mistakes being made down there going into turn 1.
It's a little bit of a kink. They call it turn 2 before you set up for turn number 3. But turn number 3 is the place where you want to try to carry plenty of momentum, Davey, because, again, there's a crossover bridge that's called turn 4 as you start that downhill descent. It, too, is a little bit, not really even a kink, but, boy, that's awfully fast as you head downhill instead of for turn number 5.
Yeah, that's right. Turn 2, as you just said, Mark, you really don't even know it's there. As a driver, it's more of a straightaway there. But turn 3, You're right. It's easy to overdrive that corner as well. A lot of forgiveness. We see a lot of cars slide off that left-hand side, get into that grass, but that straightaway, as you said, coming down into turn 5, that is another great passing zone. I think it's a first gear left-hander in that turn number 5 mark, and that's where we see a lot of contact actually. And I think that's one of the skinniest areas of the racetrack. A lot of lockups, a lot of runoffs in that outside of that corner. But that's, I think, the most exciting passing zone for the fans.
Yeah, what I think's interesting about, you go from 4 to 5, 6, and then back up to turn number 7, Davey. I mean, there are obviously a very pronounced elevation change off of that final turn, but Davey, the transition going downhill and then back up, there's probably little like it on the circuit anywhere as you hit back up the hill after that left-hander and go towards 6.
Yeah, that's right. And turn 6, the tricky thing about that continues to happen even in practice in all divisions is it's a pretty drastic uphill right there. Just a short little straightaway from turn 5 to 6, but it flattens out right at the top, so it's really a blind corner. You can't see it, and you really can't see where you need to be on the brakes in that turn-in area. But a lot of cars lock up the front brakes. We see that as even a passing zone because it's easy to make a mistake and lock those brakes up, or the car wants to get a little free as it comes over that rise. And so getting through that turn 6 is very key. Turn 7 and really kind of sets you up for turn 7 because that one there is also, it's kind of like turn 1, really high momentum, really high speed getting to that next corner.
Short little straightaway before you get to turn number 8. That's a left-hander. That sets up one of the signature portions of this course, Davey, that all-important carousel.
That's the fun. That's one part that I just, it's high speed and it's a long round like an oval, but turning the right instead of left as we do on the ovals. And I mean, the grip level there is probably going to be really impressive now with this new asphalt, but you feel a lot of G's. The car moves around, and that is, like I say, very, very high speed, one of the highest speed corners that we have on road courses. And making it through that right-hander through turn 9 and 10, nice little straightaway before you get to really high commitment turn 11 going on that long straightaway before we come into Canada corner.
Now, when you say high commitment, explain to the layperson what you mean by a high commitment corner, because we hear that phrase a lot.
Yeah, so what it is you have to have, use up every bit of racetrack. It's a right-hand kink, so that means approach, you got to be at far left, and you got to get that apex. Your turning has to be perfect to get down low and then not overshoot that corner and try to slide off going onto that long straightaway. Momentum has to stay high there, and the commitment level is this, Mark, wide open. You need to be through there wide open to be fast and to talk yourself. Your brain's saying lift, but that foot needs to stay on the floored through that area in these cars, and if you're not, you're going to lose that long straightaway speed down that long straightaway.
Well, 12, you set up for the right-hander. It is also deceptively fast. We do know throughout the course of the race to driver's left, as the tire deck starts to become a factor, that portion of the racetrack can really dirty up. But in my opinion, off of 12 and then through 13 on the approach to 14, for me, that's where I've always thought these cars look the absolute fastest.
I always encourage people, Mark, if you haven't seen an IndyCar go through a corner, it was so impressive, go to Road America and turn 13. You're exactly right. That is the most impressive viewing area to watch how fast and how much grip these cars actually have through turn 13 and coming off turn 12 Canada corner, they just start running through the gears again. Fourth gear, and that's another one. It's somewhat blind going through turn 13. You really can't see the exit, but when you stand there as a spectator, if you come to Road America, don't miss that one because you're so right. That's a fun place to watch these Indy cars for sure.
The final turn is turn number 14. It is a right-hander, and it's tighter than it looks, isn't it, Davey?
It really is. That's another one that we see a lot of cars slide off the outside at turn 14 coming on this long front straightaway. And that you think you can go through there faster than you can, but this asphalt's even going to make them more brave, I should say, getting through that area. But you have to make sure that you don't slide off the racetrack, you don't go too wide and get in the grass, because at this long front straightaway, going uphill, going by the start-finish line and heading down into turn 1, you need all the speed and RPM you can get going down that long straightaway.
So describe how the car will change throughout the course of this race as they come off of 14 and make that long climb, that huge elevation change back up to the start-finish line.
You know, one thing with this track is so long, as we just talked about, a little over 4 miles in distance, and it's so fast. So one thing that you need is you're trimmed out. That meaning the wings are laid down. You try to get the car as slick as you can, as fast as you can on these straightaways, but what that requires is a lot of mechanical grip, because these corners like turn 14, turn 1 that we talked about, you have to have that high speed, turn 11 going on the back straightaway, that mechanical grip to make sure that car is stuck down, because you have to try to take the aero out of it so it doesn't have drag down these long straightaways. So that's the give and take of this racetrack. And if it's raining out, or if it's, you know, a little bit damp, or a little bit of, you know, just slick, heated day, you may want to put some downforce back into this car. So, which means the wings go back up, but you know, Mark, what does that mean? Slower straightaways. And so that's the balance that these drivers and teams all have to take of where to be fast. Is it down the straightaways or in the corners? But mechanical grip is very important around here.
Now let's welcome in pit road. Let's say hello to Michael Young, who's with us this afternoon. Michael?
Well, good afternoon, Mark. James, 67 the ambient, track temperature 110, and we're with the race strategist for Alexander Rossi here at the Arrow McLaren Racing Stable. And your driver, oddly enough, is not in the cockpit of the car. What's the situation?
We're just waiting. We tested last week, had a pretty good test with it. We're going to let a few of the guys run. The rookies that got the extra set, get some more rubber put down on it, and then we'll get back in and go probably in about 15 or 20 minutes. But we had a good test and looking forward to a good weekend here.
Now, giving away all the spoils of that test, what did you find and how happy were you with it?
It's smooth and fast, I can tell you that. They did a heck of a job paving the place, and you're going to see a lot of lap times, and you're going to probably get close to that track record down that Dario, I think, has in the upper 30-minute 39 range, so it's going to be really quick.
Obviously, you guys didn't have the opportunity to test the alternate tires. Is that going to be, in this session, one of the keys for you? What do you focus on in this session?
Well, we actually didn't have a lot of the Road America tire when we tested last week anyway, so even on the primaries, we got some question mark on those as well. A lot of question mark on the alternatives, but when we get them on there, we're going to learn a lot today, and like I said, I expect it to be pretty close to track record's pace.
We'll let you get back to it. Thank you.
Thanks.
Race strategist for Alexander Rossi. That's Brian Barnhart, guys.
Yeah, thanks, Michael. I just want to let folks know, by the way, speaking of that tire allotment, what Brian Barnhart was talking about, 7 sets of primary, 4 sets of alternate for use during this race weekend. And as is always the case, 1 additional set of primary tires may be used by teams fielding a rookie driver. Teams have to use 1 set of primary, 1 set of new sticker alternate tires for at least 2 laps in the race. And Davey, if we can go back and take a look at the win by Alex Palou in Detroit just a couple of weeks ago, there's no question that how those primaries and alternates were mapped out by those race teams played a huge role in the outcome of that race.
Yeah, it really was. That I'm really interested and curious to see what the alternate, the red sidewall softer Firestone tires are going to do. With this higher speed, a lot more heat's going to go on these tires because of the corner speeds are going to be up. And the balance of the car, Mark, meaning is do you have to change? Is the front going to slide worse than the rear or vice versa? And to make sure that they get that balance right. And how long, what's the day going to be on the softer red tires? Are they going to last a long time? Are they going to wear out really fast with this new asphalt? So that's going to make it really exciting throughout this entire weekend, and that's one thing that these teams definitely have to learn and figure out before it comes race time.
Well, let's get more on that now by going back to pit road, checking with Michael Young.
We're joined by Kara Kristalik, and one of the situations, Kara, of course, with Firestone, and you guys bring the tires each and every week. We're going to talk to you, obviously, when the Indy cars get there, but brand new racing surface, so a whole new ball game for you guys?
Yeah, a whole new ball game. So they finished the repaving here. We weren't able to test until May 4th. So here we are mid-June, and we've already designed, engineered, and brought the right tires, and somehow made enough for all of the Indy cars and the Indy Next drivers.
Explain the effort and what goes into it. It's just not that simple. You have to see what the surface looks like. You guys actually test the surface, and then have to put everything together, get a compound, and get them all produced. It's how many weeks does that take? Obviously, you got it done.
Well, I'd say normally it takes about 1.5 years, but we only had about 1.5 months. So our engineers came up with the best specifications, best compounds and constructions that we thought we were going to use. We were able to bring them here to the test. We did track surface scanning. We understood the friction of the new surface. It's a surface that has a great affinity for rubber, so as the track rubber's in, it's going to get faster and faster this weekend.
So you didn't have an opportunity to see a lot of any of these IndyNext cars on track. How will the tire change with the effects of the compound building up on the race surface?
So this year we're going to actually have the same compound for the IndyNext cars and the IndyCar primary tires. So there's going to be a lot of good interaction between the compounds, which means there's more faster lap times, more consistency. So it's going to be great for both the Next drivers and the IndyCar drivers.
So you have a racetrack, a race course like this, and last year it was in dire need of a repaving, and now it's repaved. The challenges with the new race surface, is there a lot?
Yeah, it's really quick. So what we learned from Watkins Glen several years back ago when they did the repave helped us prepare for this repave. So our engineers, our chemists, our mechanics, and the whole tire building team back in Akron, Ohio have been working feverishly over weekends to get the tires out here. We need to make sure we have the same awesome, amazing, safe, durable, consistent tires that we always have.
So from a year and a half to a month and a half, you guys got it done. Congratulations. Looking forward to the performance of these Firestones this weekend.
Excellent. Thank you, Michael.
Simply put, Hamilton, that's why they are the best in the business, the good folks at Firestone.
Yeah, absolutely is. That is remarkable. Making new tires in a month and a half and have enough for all the 27 teams in the IndyCar series, the 17 teams in the IndyNext series. That is quite an undertaking. And you know, if anybody can handle Firestone, that's why they've been such a great partner with the IndyCar series over many years. And you know, the great thing with that is these drivers have all the confidence in the world with these tires. And you know that going as fast as we are, no matter what track it is, Mark, we have that comfort level of tires are going to stick with what you have, what you do with it.
Well, it's been right around Armstrong, Gardner, Peters, Campino, those track lap here. Brian Hart said a few moments ago that they're going to let the guys get out and turn some laps. Those weekends and all they can for some veterans to get out there. There's Big Veterans Day. It was announced back on June the 7th at IndyCar Racing. The team in Connor Daly agreed to end their relationship immediately. And your thoughts on some of the ground running ahead headlines, especially considering this former series and former Indy 500 champion Ryan Hunter race at some place.
Well, that just goes to tell you how difficult this series is, and you know how important it is to be up front. I mean, they have what they call a leader circle, Mark, where it's $1 million bonus basically for the team that's in that top 20 points, and right now with Carpenter right on the cuff of that with Connor, and they just obviously behind the scenes, I think there was a lot going on that we don't know about, but just wasn't whether they didn't have faith in each other or the confidence in each other, or just wasn't getting the program done. It didn't mesh properly. I think it was they both discussed it and agreed that it was time to make that change and try something different. And Ryan Hunter-Reay brings so much experience. Obviously, we don't need to go over what his track record is as a former champion and Indy 500 winner. So, I think they got a really good driver in the car just to see if they can't elevate that team in general. I mean, obviously Ed needs to find some more speed in those cars. It's not just Connor driving the car and not finding the speed. It's a combination. And right now Ed needs to find some speed to make sure that he stays in that leader circle for budgets concerning you have to have budget to do this, and that is a key thing for all these drivers to be in that top 20. So difficult situation for a lot of drivers, especially Connor, or a lot of people, but especially Connor. But it's not easy for Ed. It's not easy for the sponsors, and it's really not easy for Ryan Hunter-Reay. So it's not the ideal situation, but something had to be done. Unfortunately, it was in the middle of the season.
As you know, as well as anyone, there is no tougher side of this sport than the business side of the sport.
That is correct. I mean, it is business, and it's not for the weak-hearted, that's for sure. I mean, this is a sport that takes a lot of funding, a lot of commitment and effort from every single person on the team, from the very guys sweeping the shop for us, the truck drivers, the engineers, the drivers and owners. I mean, it's a huge commitment, and if things aren't flowing, you can't just continue to go on, because you have people to answer to as well, including those sponsors. I mean, that are helping you fund the program. They need to make sure that it's a good business opportunity for them as well. And if the car's not running up front, it's not getting as much exposure, and things just sometimes need to change. And like I say, it's not easy for anybody. I'm not not behind the scenes knowing exact details of everything, everything that went on, but behind the scenes, that it wasn't easy. It just wasn't an easy job, and for the media and all the people on the outside looking in, a lot of finger pointing. But I don't think that really anybody needs to take it too harshly. I mean, Ed's had great cars, great team. Obviously, they want to get their car back to the front of the fields. You can't deny Ryan Hunter-Reay's experience and what he could bring to the team, and hopefully be able to help VK, the teammate, out as well to get them back towards the front of the field.
Well, that's the thing, Davey. Sometimes in business, when things aren't going well, you bring in an experienced, talented consultant to give you an overall assessment. And while certainly Ed is bringing Ryan in and expecting results, I think that's a given. I think also Ed had referenced throughout the course of the last week or so since the announcement was made that I think he's going to probably do what he can to lean on Ryan and have Ryan give him some insight as to the operation as a whole.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And one thing about it is there is a weak link, and to figure that weak link out, I think they brought Ryan in. They needed somebody with that experience that's been with some of the top teams in the world, saying, hey, here's where you guys really need to improve, and here's where I feel that the R&D needs to be put into this the team. Here's where the testing, here's where we need to go test, and here's what we need to look at to make these cars just a little bit better. And whether it's bringing in some more engineering or just his experience, I think is going to help that a lot. And maybe that's something that, with his knowledge and experience and be able to win races and, like I say, championships in the 500, could bring to that team to really get them to the next level. And I think that's open arms for everybody. And unfortunately, I think Connor just hasn't had the best results. I mean,
right.
His fault or not, the results just haven't really been there for Connor, and a lot of times it's out of his hands as well. We've seen him with a lot of different teams and getting moved around, but I think the best news of the whole thing is this gives Ed opportunity to hopefully find some speed. Ryan Hunter-Reay is back in the saddle where he wants to be, but Connor Daly is already racing. He's driving Ryan Bolt Hire. They're doing some rallycross stuff this weekend. I see he's got a NASCAR Craftsman truck ride in Ohio, so hats off to him to keep busy and keep behind the wheel of a race car.
Now, speaking of Ryan Hunter-Reay, our Michael Young caught up with him earlier today.
And we welcome back to the 20 car for the remainder of the season, Ryan Hunter-Reay. Great to see you. Explain the process. How did this all come to be?
Thanks. Yeah, good to see you too. It's all been a lot within a very short amount of time. I've been friends and really tight with Ed for a long time. We've been racing hard against each other as competitors since 2007. And I was his teammate at Vision in 2009. I tested with the team in 2013 and 2021. Our families are really close, and I have great relationship with the engineers there, with Matt Barnes and Peter Craig. Worked with both of them in the past at other teams. My crew chief's from Andretti, and as my crew chief at Andretti. So it came about. I think it's all about people. And it all happened really fast. And, it's a tough situation doing anything like this mid-season. And you have to have respect for all parties involved. There's always more, to the situation. And this is not something where it's just like, hey, jump in the car and go faster. You're go now, go faster. This is a matter of working through this methodically and giving the team a direction for next year. Hopefully that can elevate them to where their potential is.
You were with Brian Reinbold in the month of May. I think you approached that the same way. But as you look back on the year removed when you didn't drive, has your desire changed? Has your thought process changed for racing?
Thought process, yeah, for sure. It's allowed me to just stepping away for a moment, just get you out of the weeds and get you some clarity, some mental clarity, and come back, refreshed and focused. Having been in the same situation for 12 years and having been in the grind since 2003, I got to a point where it felt a little bit like I was in the hamster wheel, and you just need to step out of it sometimes to get some true direction.
Finally, the repave here at Road America, just driving in and see the black asphalt and how great it looks, you get excited just looking at it as a driver, the track walk, getting out on this track. What are your thoughts?
I mean, yeah, it's another variable. I have got a lot of variables I need to get on top of this weekend. I knew all the nuances of this place since I was probably 16 years old. in a Skip Arbor car, and those little quirks lasted through the years with an old school track, and it still is old school, but now, yeah, I'm going to have to kind of relearn what I can get away with out there, what curbs I can use, these things, and jumping into what is the most competitive series in the world mid-season with no testing is going to be a tough feat, but we're looking forward to it.
Look forward to seeing you out there. Best of luck.
All right. Thank you. Appreciate it.
That's Ryan Hunter-Reay.
Yep, good stuff. And, a lot of folks, obviously, huge Connor Daly fans, but at the same time, very, very happy to hear the decision was made to put Ryan Hunter-Reay in that car. And activity is starting to pick up a little bit. Lundgaard, Harvey, Stingray Robb joining Armstrong out on the course. Benjamin Peterson, David Malukas, August Canapino, Graham Rahal, Ryan Hunter-Reay, who you just heard from, and Elio Castro Neves, 10 of the drivers, of the 27 drivers competing this weekend. So, Davey, did the preparation in terms of the planning for this particular session, did it change at all because of this new asphalt from where it would have been, say, this time a year ago for these teams and drivers?
I don't think so. I mean, obviously, I think that's just another element, Mark, that they have to pay attention to. But I don't think they're really the focus and the strategy for this practice session really changes. I think that they're going to be looking at the tires just a little bit more, and obviously Firestone's going to be doing that as well, just to make sure that the wear and the tire temperatures and everything come into play. And then I think for the drivers, it's like, okay, where can I be faster from this track before? So, but I think it's really kind of the same strategy, and they'll go out and just really learn what they have. And this is the initial time. I think it's always good to have, especially on a new surface like this, not so much track that we go to, but just to have this practice session and then let them sleep on it a little bit. Let everybody sleep on it and come out again for another practice session before they go for qualifying.
Well, Davey, going back and taking a glimpse at Detroit, Alex Palou had a pretty dominant day all in all. He led 74 of the laps, and he wins the race by a little over a second. Will Power finished second. Felix Rosenqvist third. Second win of the season, sixth of his career. And we had talked about throughout the course of the season that we didn't think that anybody was really going to run off and hide. But if anybody's threatening to do that right now, it's Alex Palou in terms of winning the championship.
Yeah, he is on. He's on it right now. I mean, we talked about this several times, Mark, after the controversy that he went through last year with that Ganassi organization, and McLaren, saying he's going to McLaren and potentially going to go Formula One racing. A lot of things came up. He kind of stepped aside from all that media exposure and grief and focused on racing, and that's what he did last year. And right now, with unsure of what really is going to happen at the end of this year, to be honest with you, he is focused. He still wants to win. He's leading the championship, and man, I'm impressed. He just gets the job done, and right now they're definitely hitting on all eight with that Ganassi team and leading the points, and like I say, winning that in Detroit pretty handily. And by the way, there were some yellows that came up at the end that really made him have to work for it, and he was able to pull it off, handily.
Back to pit road, and Michael Young.
Yeah, with Michael Shank and Meyer Shank Racing. Michael, we go back to February, obviously the 24 hours to where we are now. The IndyCar season, a lot of this not a fault of any of your drivers, just circumstance. Where do you see the team right now, and what has changed from 2022 to 2023?
Well, first of all, I see a super tough team that we're just striving to be better. We're having a tough year. I get to hear about it almost every day of every week. But everyone's super tough, and we're working on everything we can to make this better. And I think you'll see a nice progression toward the end of the year as we get midway and later. But no one's quitting. We're digging hard, and we'll get back to where we need to be.
Obviously, nothing's changed. It's not like everything was turned upside down in the offseason. It doesn't really make sense, and obviously you guys are putting your best foot forward week in and week out.
I mean, you saw us at St. Pete. Both cars got taken out within 500 feet of the green flag, so there's nothing we can do about stuff like that. So we've had a year like that, and we need to be better. So we're focused on that, and we will be better.
Obviously, Simon's run in Detroit was a good step forward. Is this a progression of things that we're going to see to come in the weeks to come?
It's like anything else. That kind of run has always been there. We just got to get everything aligned. Sometimes the stars just don't align in this racing world we live in, and this is what we get. But, we're not done. We're still got more to go.
A little bit about this new race surface. What Simon said about it so far, what's Elio said about it, and what's your thoughts coming into this weekend?
I mean, the speeds are super fast, super smooth. We're just checking degradation right now, and I'll have to let you know about that. Don't know yet.
We'll let you go. Obviously, we'll see good things from this team to come. We wish you all the best this weekend.
I'm sorry I lost what you said there a little bit, but for us to be better, we need to execute. The execution is the part a clear execution through the whole race by every party on the stand and in the car. So get that.
We know it'll happen. Michael had to step away, talk to his driver, Simon Pagenaud. That's Michael Shank, Meyer Shank Racing.
Yeah, and that's a race team, Davey, that has had a lot of success across multiple forms of racing. And, we've got a spin. That's Santino Ferrucci. Turn number 12, Davey, and really got loose on him. And fortunately, he was able to gather it back in and roll it up. And he, no harm, no foul. He got it back underway.
Canada corner, that's one. That's coming off that long straightaway we talked about, that super fast right-hander. And it seems like he got in there just a little bit hard, locked that right front. Didn't really lock the brakes up, but you could see the brake dust coming out of that right front tire, spun around, kept it running, and off he goes. So fortunately, no hit right there, but boy, that's a fast area to have something go bad.
Yeah, so back to Meyer Shank. I mean, nobody feels worse about it than Elio Castro-Neves and Simon Pagenaud. I mean, the expectation level for that race team, Davey, was awfully high coming into this season, and the results just haven't been there for a variety of reasons.
Boy, isn't that the truth? I mean, after winning the 500 with Elio and all that confidence and bringing such a great driver, Pagenaud, over out of that Penske camp into there, obviously both those drivers joined for, the captain, and they know how organizations are ran. They had so much confidence coming into the season, but just hasn't been there. The best run, as you said, was Simon Pagenaud, and Detroit had a fairly good finish and seemed to be competitive. But, he talked about the first race. With neither one of their doings, they got wiped out within by the third corner of the race. They're done and out, both cars, and just things haven't went as smoothly as they wanted. And I talked to both drivers, Simon and Elio. Mark, they still have the passion. They have the desire. They want to be competitive. They're putting so much effort into it to try to, get that Meyer Shank team back to front. You just hope they're not overstepping their back, over pressuring themselves to be that good. But right now, there's a lot of work to be done, unfortunately, with that team to get them back up front. We know it's there. We know they could win. They've done it before, and we know those drivers could win. They both won 500s and championships, so hopefully it's coming soon.
Well, Davey, they're not alone in their misery, and we shouldn't shine the spotlight on them. I mean, Marcus Armstrong is currently 17th in points, and that's let's call it what it is. It's a road and street course only effort. But he is ahead of Graham Rahal, David Malukas. He was ahead of Connor Daly, Devlin DeFrancesco, Elio Castro-Neves, Jack Harvey, Augustin Canapino, and Simon Pagenaud, Benjamin Peterson, and Stingray Robb.
Yeah, how impressive is that, right? I mean, that just tells you that how those teams are on the struggle bus, and a driver that's not even doing the complete series, that's ahead of him. And as a rookie as well, but that just tells you that there's talent there, and he's with a great team with that Ganassi organization. I mean, anytime that you go over there and you have Palou and Dixon, to feed off of, and Ericsson, who won the 500 and almost won a second 500 this year, by the way, out of Ericsson. And how impressive is that program right now, and to be part of it. You have the pressure running up front, but it seems like they have the equipment to get it done. 16 cars have now taken to the track, and David Malukas pops to P1 with a time of 1:41. I believe that's 8.65, and then it's Rosenquist, Armstrong, Lundgaard, and Harvey, the top five. Robb, Power, Castro-Neves, Benjamin Peterson, Ryan Hunter-Ray through 10. Santino Ferrucci, Augustin Canapino, Graham Rahal 13th, Rinus VeeKay 14th, Simon Pagenaud 15th quick, Kyle Kirkwood, Alexander Rossi, Alex Palou, and Marcus Ericsson. And 19 of the 27 entered have taken to the track. Davey, we keep an eye all season long on the battle for the Manufacturers' Championship. Honda has jumped up to a bit of a lead over Chevrolet now, 575 to 553. Yeah, but still fairly close. I mean, it's a tight championship. You can't count on that small lead to take them throughout the season. But right now, I was just looking at that. Ironically, you bring it up. Honda with that Malukas, I mean, it's still early on, but in that first position, fastest with that Chevrolet of Rosenquist, who's obviously been impressive this year too, made a few late race mistakes, but it has ran a third in Detroit and almost, another contender for the 500. But after that, you got four more Hondas, a Chevrolet and another Honda. So Hondas, a majority of them are towards the top of this chart, but Mark, still early. We got a long ways to go in this session. I think it's going to get mixed around.
Yeah, Honda got the win in Detroit. Chevrolet grabbed second second and third. Honda was fourth with Scott Dixon, and Alexander Rossi and the Chevy completed the top five. Back to pit road, Michael Young.
Yeah, looking at the machine of Santino Ferrucci, the right rear brake rotor still blowing as the crew looks over the car. It looks like everything's pretty much good right now. No damage to it. They took the right side pod off and has looking over there. Everything looks good. Engine cover has gone on and back, or off and back on. So as we see the machine of Santino Ferrucci get the once over, looks like he may be back on the circuit here in about 4 or 5 minutes or so.
A little bit earlier today, before this practice session started, our Nick Yeoman, who we'll hear on the next broadcast, also on these broadcasts throughout the course of the rest of the weekend, he caught up with your Indy 500 champion, Joseph Newgarden.
Joseph Newgarden joins us here at Road America, getting set for practice. First and foremost, how do you spend the week off? Because I know it's been a lot of to the grind, getting after it for the 500, going straight to Detroit. How'd you get away from racing?
Nick, I just wanted to be normal, and by normal, I wanted to be at home, not doing much. I actually only had 2 or 3 days of that. I went and traveled last weekend. It was actually McLaughlin's birthday, and we were celebrating that, which was great. It was like bad timing, though. I wanted to be there, but I also just wanted to be at home. So when I did get home, though, I just wanted a little bit of normalcy, have some time to myself, and now I feel energized. I do feel ready to go again and excited to be in Road America.
Your thoughts on this place now that it's been repaved? You've had a lot of success here. It's been a great racetrack for you. Now that it's been repaved, do we think that changes at all?
I don't know fully for the racing side of it. I think just driving by ourselves, and I did the test here a couple weeks ago, it felt very similar to what the old Road America was. There's just a lot more grip, with new pavement and, building some rubber. It was quite a lot faster than when we were here last time, over 4 seconds. And so we'll probably be 5-6 seconds on total quicker than what we saw last year. I don't know how that's going to race. Typically when you shorten up brake zones and you increase corner speeds, it's not good for racing. But I think Road America is different in that it has such long straightaways that might not matter as much. I think it all comes down to tire degradation. It always does. It's a new surface. It should look after the tires pretty well. But I think if Firestone brings something that drops off just a little bit, then our racing product should still be really good. And so I'm hoping we get some of that.
How was the debrief on Detroit with the new street circuit? Roger and everybody pretty happy with how everything went?
Yeah, I think it was like a really great race, right? We were all left surprisingly happy with, as a first event, you're always going to have teething problems, right? It's just impossible to not create a totally new atmosphere and set up and not have some issues. But I think they did an amazing job working through the whole weekend. When anything came up, they were ready to fix it immediately, and everyone seemed really prepared on the weekend. There's some things we can tweak still, but I thought it was a really good race, and I was excited to be there. I just wish I had a little more energy. The 500 did not help with that.
Final thing, in the last 2 weeks, has it gotten old yet being introduced as the Indy 500 champion?
I feel like it would be incorrect to say yes, but I'm moved on. I really am. It was amazing. I just can never repay. I feel now so indebted to everybody, even more so that we were able to win it. That people that have helped me get to this point and have continued to just, be in my corner and by my side. So it was just amazing. But I'm ready to move back to the championship. We've really got to focus forward and not try and, sit in that moment, because it was a great moment, but we need to, let it be.
Good luck this weekend.
Thank you.
To that point, Davey, I've heard several, especially the first-time winners, say that, it's a whirlwind for, the 7 to 10 days after the race is over with all of the media obligations and whatnot. And, while certainly you're soaking all of that in, you're always anxious to get back to the task at hand and get back to racing and where the distractions are minimized. And oftentimes, I've heard drivers say that the true celebration, the true reflection, oftentimes doesn't begin until the season's over, when you have plenty of time in the offseason.
Yeah, because they're going to introduce you differently for the rest of your life as a 500 winner, Mark, and that is a huge thing. And when the 500 happens, it's not like the Super Bowl. It's not the last event of the season, and then you have time to really reflect on it and take a break. As you said, it's our 6th race in, basically. So it's, mid-season, and to win the biggest race in the world, it does take, some out of your game, because the obligations, as you said, he was, I seen him everywhere. It was mostly in New York and all around doing media obligations for winning that race, which you love to do. But there's still a championship to win. There's still races to be won, and you still have to focus on what you're going to do. But I'll tell you what, no matter what happens after the 500, you're solidified. You're an Indy 500 champion.
Well, Brian Barnhart picked the right time to send Alexander Rossi out, Davey, finding the track to his liking early on. A former winner here. He's been on the podium a couple of times, set on pole here. Alexander Rossi has gone to P1. Is now 25 of the 27 cars that are taking laps.
Yeah, just seen one fly off the track right there. Looks like DeFrancesco may have went off in that final corner, but you're right. Brian, just the tone in his voice going, yeah, we tested here a couple of weeks ago, and we're very happy with the way the test went. Well, that's, when Brian's saying that, I mean, obviously they had a really good test, and that McLaren team, as we talked about, has been really fast right now as they sit first with Rossi, third with Rosenqvist, and fifth with Pato O'Ward. So all three of those McLaren cars in the top five. So I'd have to say, yes, they did have a great test, but here's one that I think is impressive. Malukas in second. That Delcoin team, they've been struggling for some speed this year. Malukas, we thought that he's going to be farther up in the championship and have better results than he's had so far this year, but right now finds himself second. And then how about the team that almost missed the 500 with it, Lundgaard, was the last car in, really the 500, and really has struggled in qualifying at all the races, although he did find himself on the pole of a road race there at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, the Indy GP. But then right now, a little fresh air for that Rahal team, finding one of them drivers in the top four.
34 minutes remaining in this session, and Rossi is P1, as we mentioned. David Malukas is currently second quick. Then it's Felix Rosenqvist, Lundgaard, and Ericsson through fifth. Colton Herta, O'Ward, McLaughlin, Armstrong, and Harvey the top 10. Kirkwood is 11th. VK is 12th. Will Power is 13th. Callum Eilon is 14th. 15th is Stingray Robb. 16th is Simon Pagino. Canapino 17th. Castroneves 18th. Hunter Ray 19th. Peterson 20th. Dixon 21st. Rahal 22nd. Ferrucci 23rd. Palou 24th. Joseph Newgarden 25th. Roman Grosjean is 26th. Peterson's have been among the busiest, along with Armstrong. Of course, those guys get that extra set of tires. They took the track a little bit earlier. They've turned 11 laps here. Another portion that you simply must take into account of this course, another portion to take into account, Davey, that's a bit of a challenge. When you come off of 14, if you're coming onto pit road, this pit road is one of the longest that we'll see all year long, and it also goes uphill. So it's really challenging for those drivers to maintain the proper speed limit and have to navigate that hill and then find their way into their pit box.
Yeah, that's a good point, Mark, because that is part of the race, right? You can't make any mistakes on pit lane, whether that's getting in or off a pit lane, not breaking that speed limit, making sure you get into your box. And as you said, one of the longest that we have of all of our events. So they have plenty of room to be able to maneuver around, cars in front of them, cars behind them. But it is kind of blind, as you said, coming up that hill, and the speed limit starts just right immediately where the pits start, actually. And it looks like that's Harvey, I think, or maybe Simon. Or Elio, I'm sorry, the first pit coming in, and so he's going to be on the brakes hard. But right now is the time to do that. One thing when we go out and practice for all these events, that's another thing that you have to be practicing for yourself, and that is getting in and out of pit lane and getting into your pit box properly and making as much speed as you can there as well as on the racetrack. So yeah, that's important part of the game.
And just as tricky, especially under green conditions, Davey, is the exit of that pit road, because as we see throughout the course of the season, oftentimes the way that pit exit is set up, oftentimes you're coming right into race traffic right as they set up for a tricky turn, and that's the case here. I mean, you no sooner come off a pit road than you're on turn one.
Yeah, you're really on turn one, and we've seen many times when the cars are up to speed coming down that long straightaway we talked about at over 185 miles an hour, going into that super fast turn one, and you're coming out of the pit lane. It can get jumbled up down there now, even faster yet with this new asphalt. Turn one's going to be a little bit faster, so that is something that we always keep our eye on is that turn one, and that's another reason, as you just said, when your pit stop's done and you get by the pit lane speed attenuator or the timeline, is you want to get up to speed as fast as you can, and if cars are coming, you have to try to stay out of the way. But obviously, one thing that you have advantage of is the primary spot. You're on the low line going through that turn number 1.
And Davey, the Firestone Pit Stop Performance Award, they keep track of that throughout the course of the season. We can tell you that Will Power's crew currently has racked up 198 points, and they're just ahead of Team Penske with 176 points, a team of Joseph Newgarden. Then Scott Dixon's Ganassi team, the Wolfpack, they're currently in third place with 175 points. So there's a pretty healthy battle between those teams for those all-important pit stop awards at the end of the season.
Yeah, absolutely. And one thing I, try to tell all of our listeners and people that generally ask on just how important pit stops are, and I always go back to Mark, as we know at 200 miles an hour, you're traveling 300 feet a second, so a football field a second. So if one crew member messes up by 1 second, just that 1 second in pit lane, that just costs that driver and that team over a football field on the racetrack at some tricks. And even here, it's not quite a football field if you miss that second, but it puts yourself way out of the game. So every second counts, and I mean really I should say every 10th counts when it comes to pit stops. So these teams, they work hard not to make mistakes, and it's quite an honor for all these team members to win that award at the end of the season.
Well, as we mentioned, Alex Palou is starting to distance himself from the rest of the field after that win at Detroit. Earlier today, our Michael Young caught up with our most recent race winner.
With Alex Palou getting ready for the big weekend, you're on a roll. It's been a fantastic season thus far. The 2 wins coming off Detroit a couple of weeks ago. You're getting into form now. Is coming to a place like this, a traditional road course, something that you look forward to?
Yeah, absolutely. It's I would say one of my favorite places on the calendar, if not my favorite road course. Got my first IndyCar podium here back in 2020 with Delcoin Racing, and it was awesome. So yeah, have great memories here. It's always an amazing feeling driving an IndyCar around Road America, and looking forward to the new challenge of a brand new repaved. Haven't tested yet, but it looks really fast. I like fast things, so yeah, hopefully it's going to be a good weekend for us.
How as a driver do you approach a new pavement? I mean, obviously it's the same for everybody else. A couple of the drivers got to test. Do you look forward to that, or do you like the grittier old surface that you really have to struggle with to get speed?
I would say depending on the day and depending on the track. Honestly, I think that Road America needed the repave, just because we had some bumps and stuff, but we didn't really have the grip that we expected. So it was the right time. It was not too late. It was not too early. I think it was the right time. And I like it. I mean, it's just going to make the track really, really fast, and that's why we're here. So, yeah, we'll try and have a setup that is ready for those kinds of speed compared to last year. And I'm sure that during the first 2 or 3 seasons, we're going to start seeing more bumps on the braking zones and making it more challenging year to year. But yeah, we'll enjoy it until it starts together.
Where are you mentally and in race form right now? You look like you're in that championship form of a couple of years ago. You dominated a couple of races, Indianapolis and Detroit. Your confidence level coming into the midway point in the season?
Yeah, I love it. I mean, we had really good cars so far, really good races this start of the year. It's really early still to think about championship and stuff. Obviously, we want to win the championship. That's a goal. But yeah, we take it race by race as we've been taking all the season. And I don't think we'll think about the championship until it's like 2 races to go. But yeah, hopefully we can continue the form. It's been a really fun year for sure. So I don't think we're done, or we just had good luck. I think we can keep on performing the way we've been, and especially with the races that we have now that are amongst my favorites.
Lastly, after the long month of May, we finally got a weekend off last weekend. Anything fun? Did you do anything traveling?
Yeah, I went to Europe, tested with the old McLaren F1 at Budapest, which was fun, and then got to see my racing team back in Spain, and it was fun as well. So. And
welcome back to the States. We'll look forward to seeing you out there this weekend.
Thank you.
That's Alex Palou.
And he's going to split $10,000 with Chip Ganassi Racing and his chosen charity, the American Legion, for his victory as part of the People Ready Force for Good Challenge. Now, Davey, like Joseph Newgarden did last year, he's won 2 of the 3 legs needed to earn the $1 million bonus by winning on the road course at the Speedway and the street circuit at Detroit. All he has to do is win one of the 2 doubleheaders at Iowa or the race on the oval at Worldwide Technology Raceway, and he gets that $1 million bonus.
Yeah, let's hope that happens. Isn't that great that they put that $1 million up for these drivers? As you said, Joseph Newgarden was able to capture that $1 million, and what a great opportunity for so many people. And let's hope it happens again. I mean, he could definitely do it. I mean, I think he's better on the street and road courses than he is on the ovals. Not that he can win ovals, because we know he can, but I think it's going to be a challenge. But let's keep our fingers crossed he pulls that off.
Rossi continues P1 with 25 minutes remaining in the session. And Davey, if Romain Grosjean has had any dental work, he may have rattled it loose a few moments
well, we just seen that. He went off, it looked like in turn 3, got off just a little bit wide, and coming back on, hit the rumble strips or the curbing, and the car, all 4 tires off the ground, took pretty good flight. And that's one thing Romain, he needs to, I'd say between him and Rosenqvist, 2 drivers that have huge speed, Mark. We see them every week in, week out. You know they have speed throughout the weekend. Seems like late in the races that the focus is lost just so slightly, and you have to stay mentally focused and not put a wheel wrong at the end of these races, because that's so important. And we've seen that happen in Detroit. He just turned in a little bit too quick in the turn 4 and shot him in the outside of turn 5 wall or turn 4 wall, and took him out for the day. And you can see the frustration. He knew he made a mistake. By the way, he wasn't getting pressured behind to get past. He just made a small mistake. And right there, you want to make your mistakes in practice like you did, but he definitely, as you said, if he had any dental work done, he may want to go get it checked out.
Michael Young, before that off, Romain Grosjean has worked his way up to 16th quick.
Indeed, and he is quick, but some remnants of that off. About 27 blades of grass lay below the right front wing on that right side as the crew goes to work. They're changing the springs on those front dampers, so some adjustments for Romain Grosjean. Looks like some potential ride heights as well. We'll see him back out, but trying to find speed, and as you said, Davey, trying to get all the kinks worked out here in these practice sessions before we go qualifying tomorrow.
Give me an idea, speaking of tomorrow, of our broadcast schedule. At 9:50 Eastern Time, we'll have the second Indy Next practice session. Then at 10:55 Eastern, the second IndyCar practice session. Then at 1:15 Eastern tomorrow afternoon, Indy Next qualifying. And then at 1:55 Eastern, we'll close out the day with IndyCar knockout qualifying at the Firestone at Fast 6. And then on Sunday, nice and early, 10:15 Eastern, a final 30-minute warm-up session. Then at 11 o'clock Eastern Time, we'll have complete coverage of the Indy Next race. And then we'll wrap up the day with the Sanzio Grand Prix at Road America, presented by AMR at 1 o'clock. And Davey, after that brutal schedule that carried us all throughout the month of May and wrapped up a couple of weeks ago with that fabulous event in Detroit, little breathing room for some teams. Most teams, you heard, Alex Palou saying what he did to kind of rest and relax. Same thing with Joseph Newgarden. And I think we've hit a pretty good pace now that I think most of the teams and most of the drivers and we can agree with. You race, you have a weekend off, then you race and you have a weekend off. A pretty, I think, doable schedule over the next couple of months.
Yeah, I think that's really good, actually. In mid-season, I think it's just time for these teams, the ones that are good, they're going to try to get a little bit better, although they may, they're just kind of reflecting on what they've done throughout the season and keep that momentum going. And I think it kind of helps the teams that are struggling a little bit too, Mark. They're like, okay, we're struggling in these areas. Let's take some time and try to figure out what we are. We just talked about Foyt's team. They were so fast at Indy, almost won the 500 with Ferrucci. We've seen him have a little mistake. Right now, he's P20 here. But how about his teammate? 14th for Pedersen. So pretty impressive right now, that Foyt team finding some speed. We also talked about Meyer Shank racing with Pagano and Castroneves. Still no speed yet today. Marks 23rd and 25th respectively right now on the Tammy chart.
So Michael Young, Davey Hamilton, and I were talking about pit road and the challenges of maintaining proper speed there. Race control already has their eye on at least one person that may have exceeded the limit.
Well, I was getting ready to talk to race strategist for Alex Palou, Barry Wanzer, and actually Alex is in the very last pit box, so he's the first one to go out, or I should say first pit box on pit lane. Last actually You guys do the math. In any case, he doesn't have to go very far, but he got after it fast enough that he got a speeding penalty coming off pit lane, so he will have to do a drive-through or serve that penalty here momentarily. When we get that served, we will talk to Barry Wanzer.
So my question for you, Michael Young, how were you able to determine then that there were 27 blades of grass around the car of Romain Grosjean, but you had trouble counting the pit boxes?
I had time to count the blades of grass, and you came to me too fast to determine which pit box. Actually, Alex Pelot, he's in pit box 1. How about that? There you go.
Well done, Michael Young, as always. Rossi, Malukas, Award, Rosenqvist, and Pelot, the top 5. Lundgaard is 6th, Herta 7th, Ericsson 8th, Dixon 9th, McLaughlin 10th, Armstrong 11th, Newgarden 12th. Harvey 13th, Benjamin Peterson is 14th, Kyle Kirkwood is 15th, Romain Grosjean is 16th, Callum Ilott 17th, 18th VK, 19th DeFrancesco, 20th Ferrucci, 21st Power, 22nd Robb, 23rd Pagano, 24th Canapino, 25th Castro Neves, 26th Hunter Ray, and 27th Graham Rahal. And Navy, with the announcement a few days ago that Ryan Hunter-Reay was going to replace Connor Daly, that sets, I think, in motion the attention on the silly season. We will talk more about that now that Michael has counted up blades of grass and pit boxes, and he's ready to talk to Barry Wanzer.
Well, Barry was able to inform me about that penalty, so I looked like I was on the cutting edge of penalties and knowing what was going on. The first time in my radio career, Barry, the week off. Let's just talk about you. What does a Barry Wanzer do on a weekend off?
Well, I try to, catch up with my family, and, we still work, obviously, but it's nice having a long weekend for everybody. Obviously, it's a push for all the teams getting through May, and then going straight to Detroit. So a nice weekend off is good for all.
I have to cut the grass. Do you cut the grass at all?
I do cut the grass, but I also have a 16-year-old who cuts the grass, so that's helpful.
Oh, that's very, very helpful. Talk about this circuit, the repave. What has Alex said thus far and what he's feeling? We talked to him earlier today, and he was looking forward to coming out here.
Yeah, we always look forward to coming to Road America. They're always reinvesting in the product.
All right, we'll see if we can't get that. We'll see if we can't get that interview back with Barry Wanzer and Michael Young. Davey Hamilton, you heard Barry Wanzer talking about taking it easy, relaxing, and I don't think there's any question it was a well-deserved break for all these teams and drivers.
Yeah, no question about it. And we just talked about that. It just helps out. Just gets everybody's heads clear. And for those teams that, like I said, again, that are doing well, that they're just going to try to continue doing what they do and make sure they stay up front. But I do think it really helps the teams that are struggling just a little bit, that are just behind, or they're putting cars back together. Obviously, there was a bit of carnage after Detroit, not a lot, but some, and then even after the 500. So they had some work to do, getting cars going again. And these teams, they work, around the clock to do whatever it takes to make these cars good.
18 minutes remaining in this session, just under that, in fact. Rossi, Malukas, Award, Rosenqvist, and Pelot are the top 5. And I know, Davey, there's a lot of conversation out there about, the big 2, the big 3, the big 4, whatever. But I think for all intents and purposes, this season, if you look at the standings anyway, it's, in my opinion, the big one, really. You've got Ganassi first, Ganassi second, and Ganassi third. And we told you about their road and street course driver, Marcus Armstrong. He sits 17th in points in his limited entries. And again, in front of a bunch of guys that are full-time in the series. It's been a magical season for Chip Ganassi so far.
Yeah, it really has. I seen an interview with Chip several times, and he always says, well, it's not me, it's the people that are surrounding me, it's the people that work for me. Well, he had to start the program, so Chip, I always say that, he has to take a lot of the credit because he's put those proper people into place, and he's had the same people for a lot of years, and to be able to do what he does is just incredible. And there's no question that the top 2 have been Ganassi and Penske for years and years, and everybody wants to be that third team, and right now it looks like maybe that could be McLaren right now. I would have to say, being their first third and fourth right now in this practice. They've been up front a lot, but you're right. Matt Ganassi has to take a lot of credit.
And then speaking of that team you just mentioned, Potawatomi Ward is 5th in points, Rossi is 6th in points, and Rosenquist is 10th in points. We talked about Marcus Armstrong and the impressive run that he has had in his first season here in the NTT IndyCar Series. Our Nick Yeoman caught up with him earlier today.
Marcus Armstrong joins us here at Road America, getting set for practice. I guess when you come to a brand new racetrack, how do you approach it coming for the first time?
Well, obviously it's a new circuit. Every track is new for me here in America, so it's almost the copy and paste. I think it's great because I'm just exploring everything for the first time with open eyes. I enjoy learning new circuits, but it's just about adapting quickly and trying new things.
Your takeaway after the weekend in Detroit?
Well, I thought that we were fast. The car was very good. Ultimately, we didn't get the result I think we all deserved. We were P8 at the end. We lost a position on the last lap to McLaughlin, but I thought we were capable of a lot more, which is great. I think the potential's there for something good this weekend and onwards.
Marcus Armstrong joins us on IndyCar Radio here at Road America. The off weekend, what did you do to get away and maybe enjoy yourself?
I sort of disappeared for a little bit. Went off the grid for a few days, which is great. I think you need to have a little bit of time off to arrive with a new perspective every now and again. But ultimately, I think I'm ready to focus and work hard this weekend.
Good luck this weekend.
Thank you.
Marcus Armstrong.
And look forward to Marcus Armstrong, seeing how the rookie tackles the course here at Road America. And he is currently setting 11th at 143.022. And Davey, pace continues to quicken. Rossi's fast time at 141.779. Malukas at 141.865. Awards at 141.978. And you get to Felix Rosenquist in 4th. He's in the 142s all the way down to McLaughlin through 10th. And then 11th through about the 15th or so. Well, no, farther down than that, Davey. All the way down to 24th position, all in the 143s. That's kind of hauling the mail around here, huh?
Pretty impressive. And one thing I just noticed, Rossi being P1, as you just said, Mark, 141.779. That equals speed of 141.978, almost identical numbers from time to speed. So pretty interesting there as well. And 141, almost 142 on average speed on a road course, Mark. That just tells you how fast this place is because there's a lot of corners here. This isn't just straightaways. So pretty impressive on how fast they're getting around here.
The record set by Dario Franchitti, Davey, and it's been around a while. It was set back in 2000 in terms of a qualifying lap at 139.866. That's impressive.
That's very impressive. Now, we're gonna. There's two cars right now. That's Palou and Power that really haven't had an opportunity to get a full lap in, but they got the softer compound red Firestone tires on. We're gonna see what kind of time and how much time they can pick up with those tires. And I'll have to say this: as the rubber continues to build throughout the weekend, and more importantly, I guess, before tomorrow's qualifying, that could be challenged potentially with Dario's record. Still a little ways away, and it just depends on how much extra time they can get out of these softer tires. But two cars do have them on right now, Palou and Power. We'll see what they can turn.
Well, and Michael Young shared with us off-air quick conversation he had with Brian Barnhart, something to the effect that, boy, they're not seeing much in the way of tire deg at all with this new surface. That's not a surprise, is it?
Yeah, it really is. So you look at it two ways, and I think Firestone wanted to be a little bit conservative to make sure that the tire was going to last, plenty of time and not wear out or have issues where they had to pit early. So they probably went a little conservative and made that tire maybe harder, maybe just a little more durable to last longer, and not so much worried about speed more than likely, because that's definitely something you don't want. But the faster the corner, usually the more deg the tire has, the more it's going to wear out, the quicker it's going to wear out. So that just makes me think the Firestone, like I said, build just a little bit harder tire. Next year it may change just a little bit, just depending on what this weekend looks like.
Well, with the fact that they won't have these alternates available to them for the practice session tomorrow morning, are you a little surprised that as of right now, with just 11 minutes remaining in the session, We now see Palou, Lundgaard, and Power as the only ones who've given him a shot, or do we think that number's going to go up now as we get into the last 10 minutes of the session?
No, it's definitely going to go up. As I'm looking out, I see Elio, they're strapping his reds on right now. His tires are off his car. I'm assuming that reds are going to go on that car. See David Malukas with reds on his car getting ready to go out. Ferrucci. So every car, I think Graham Rahal, they're all putting those Lundgaard, as you said, with reds on as well. So their reds are going on as Colton Herta is putting his reds on right now. So every car is going to have an opportunity to find out what that red softer compound tire does with this last 10 minutes left.
And they should have a pretty good shot with this 4-mile course at getting a lap in. As we mentioned, Alexander Rossi, he's been on the podium here a couple of times. He's a former winner here. He's currently fastest at 141.559. And earlier today, just before this session, our Michael Young caught up with him.
So the big weekend off.
Yes.
What'd we do?
I got my boat out. It had a flat tire on the way down to Monroe. I didn't have a jack sufficient to change the tire, so I went to Lowe's and bought wood to put the jack on, and then that wasn't enough, so then I tried to use the tongue jack, and that was too much, so the tongue jack failed, and so then my friend had to go rent a Caterpillar forklift and then lift it back onto my truck, where we continued to then go to AutoZone and buy an appropriate jack, change the tire, and 4.5 hours later we were at the lake.
So the question is, how much lake time did you get?
Still a full day. Like, this was the Friday going down there. But yeah, that was the majority of my weekend. Yeah.
That's wonderful. So now we're here at Road America Track Walk. Thoughts on this place now that it's repaved?
Yeah, well, we tested here.
That's right.
Yeah, so it's awesome. Like, it's super high grip. They did a very good job repaving it. It took, one of the best tracks in America and made it a great track. So excited to see how it'll race. Obviously, that's the big question mark. And we didn't have the actual tire we're going to have for this weekend at the test. So that's a little bit of a gray area. But yeah, no, it was a good test. It was like 4 seconds quicker than last year, so it was pretty cool to try.
What do you think the best place on the track with the change in pavement that you'll be able to take a better advantage of due to the grip?
Really, it's most of the speed comes in the high-speed corners. The braking's not that much different. It's kind of just mid-corner speed everywhere, but particularly in the higher-speed corners. So, like, 14 was a big difference. 1, 7, the carousel. So, yeah.
We saw a little bit from Scott McLaughlin, his shunt, when he went wide in that turn. Is that going to be an issue potentially with the grip, that you'll be able to swing a little bit wider but then have to find your way back on?
We weren't doing it in the test, obviously because of what we saw with him the day before. But even with it being kind of smoothed out, I don't know that you'd really use it. Maybe at the start, right? But no, I don't think that's going to be a thing that every lap that's going to be a place you go.
Lastly, we have a little bit of time on Saturday. Did you bring the boat up to be able to go out on Elkhart Lake this weekend?
I did not. Should have, though. But no, I haven't figured out a way to tow my boat behind my airplane. Once I can figure that out, then it's all good.
Best of luck to you this weekend.
Cool, thank you.
That's Alexander Rossi.
I think maybe if he can figure out a way to tow a boat behind an airplane, he'll make more money off of that than he'll ever make racing.
Yeah, no question about that. But it's, I think they rent boats here, so maybe we can talk him into renting a boat and taking us all out on that maybe when we're out of town. But what a weekend he had. Sounds like a few issues, but sounds like a lot of fun at the end of the day.
Boy, I tell you, the guys out on the course this weekend, Nick Yeoman, Michael Young, Jake Query, a bit of a challenge for them, Davey. They might have to thumb through a spotter's guide to start the weekend because, a lot of cars out there with different paint schemes and different colors. Christian Lundgaard kind of looks like the old, kind of GoDaddy paint scheme that you had in the series once upon a time, stickered up just like that. Now, there's one that's different for Rinus VeeKay, but it's a very, I think, familiar sponsor, and one that Ed Carpenter and before him Sarah Fisher have been long associated with. They were at the Milwaukee Mile for years, the good folks that direct the supply on the car of Rinus VeeKay this weekend. I know you know those folks very well.
Yeah, absolutely. Great people. Been a supporter of IndyCar in general for a long, long time, especially here in Milwaukee when we run the Milwaukee Mile. Great to see them continue to stay involved with Ed Carpenter and that team. And you're right. When I look at some of these cars go by, I go, no, wait a minute, that's a different color. And I thought it was a GoDaddy car. I go, Danny, get back in this series again. What are we doing today? But that's obviously a new sponsor for Lundgaard, which is always good to have new partners and sponsorships come aboard, and trying to get them all straight. And always the pink cars. You got 3 of them. It's not just, it's Harvey, and you got Simon, and you got Castroneves, and those are always hard to differ from each other as well.
Yeah, and the young man that pilots one of those AutoNation cars throughout the course of the weekend with that familiar pink color, an up-and-coming rookie, Davey. I think there's some really good days ahead for Kyle Kirkwood, the winner earlier this season at Long Beach.
There you go, Kirkwood. That's right, Kyle Kirkwood. That's what I'm sorry, so Harvey still used to having him in one of those cars, but Kirkwood and that Andretti Camp already has that first win at Long Beach. How impressive was that? It seems like he's had some difficult runs, including the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, had himself in position to potentially win that race, ends up upside down. So he's had some highs and lows this year already, but what a talent I think that Kirkwood is. Obviously he's with a team that he's familiar with, that he likes, and I think he's going to be around a long time. I think we're going to see a lot of him. And speaking of him, he's 20th right now. Some little, it doesn't seem like the Andretti team in general really has a lot of speed. Their fastest being Colton Herta, which he's been fast here, been on the pole here before, actually, in that P8 position. So a little speed to be gained there. And then the next Andretti car is 12th with Grosjean.
What it's going to boil down to, Davey, in order for you to advance through qualifying tomorrow, you simply cannot have an off, any kind of off whatsoever. I mean, there are places where you might be able to get by with a little bit of an off. You might be able to brush a wall a little bit and still be able to maintain a good lap and put it together. But, I mean, look how incredibly tight it is. I mean, the fastest car right now is Rossi at 141.779. And then the 4th fastest is Award at 141.978. And then you go to the 5th fastest, Felix Rosenqvist. He is at 142.063. And then McLaughlin is 11th fastest at 142.986. I mean, there's no margin for error there.
No margin for error whatsoever, Mark. And one thing too, I just wanted to throw out there, everybody has the red softer tires on, but speeds aren't dropping. Ironically, they're just not dropping. It seems like the faster speeds were on the black tires than they are on the softer red tires. So pretty interesting. Don't know if that's a balance issue with the red tires or if they're just actually a little bit too soft and just not really give them the stability that they need in the corners right now. So, but I was surprised that I was figuring that we're going to really see some drop in lap time with these tires, but it has not happened so far. Matter of fact, Rossi's fast time on those blacks, 141.779. The last time he just went by the reds, 142.843. So basically 1 second slower for those softer red compound tires.
Well, the best consecutive, say, 5-lap average up until now is Scott McLaughlin at 144.432. But Davey, I'm under the impression that the lion's share of those laps were probably on that primary compound.
Yeah, they sure were. They definitely were on that primary compound, and there's going to be a lot of conversation on these reds. Seems to me like they're not going to be tire of choice with the speed, because it seems like the black tires, as Brian Barnhart mentioned to us, that they last a long time. They go majority of the stint, don't lose any speed. So right now, it doesn't seem to be this red's an advantage for speed or durability.
So does that mean that they'll load up on reds for qualifying? And we know what the rules are and what they have to run in race, but the focus, you think, at least from what we see for this first practice session, their mindset going to be, hey, we're good with the primaries on race day?
Yeah, I think that they're going to be potentially good for primaries on qualifying too, which will put a whole completely different strategy into it as well, unless they can find some more speed out of these tires. Maybe change the car a little bit, maybe change the balance of the cars just a little bit from the blacks to the reds for qualifying. But right now, I'm going to tell you that for qualifying tomorrow, if they can't find any improvement immediately, they're going to be on those the black tires, just the standard tires.
So again, we do want to let you know the schedule for tomorrow at 9:50 Eastern in the next practice session number 2, and then at 10:55 we'll have the second IndyCar practice session, and then Indy Next qualifying at 1:15. And then we'll cap off the day at 1:55 Eastern with knockout qualifying of the Firestone Fast 6 for the NTT IndyCar Series. And then spend Father's Day with us, as much of it as you can. At 10:15, we will have the final IndyCar warm-up session at 10:15 Eastern, running until 10:45. And then 11 o'clock Eastern, complete coverage of the Indy Next race. And then from 1 to 4, basically, will probably last a little longer than 4. We always do. At 1 o'clock, we'll take the air with pre-race coverage of the Sanzio Grand Prix at Road America, presented by AMR. Again, those with us this weekend include Alex Wolf and Joel Sebastianelli. They'll join us tomorrow, and then Georgia Henneberry will join us on pit road on race day. We'll have Jake Waring, Nick Yeoman, yours truly, and Michael Young out on the course for the Indy Next, and also the NTT IndyCar Series. And then Nick and Davey handle the booth duties for the Indy Next by Firestone Grand Prix at Road America, and then Davey and I will handle chores in the booth for the Stanzio Grand Prix at Road America, presented by AMR. Rossi, Malukas, Pillow, Award, Erickson, Davey, those 5 awfully impressive today.
Yeah, very impressive right now. 42 seconds left to go in this session, and man, they've really hung up top. That the McLaren teams continue to impress with the Ganassi team up top. But Malukas, I continue that Del Coyne team. They could use a good run. Malukas could use a good run, but find himself piece 2 right now. And how about his teammate right now? Obviously, good car. Stingray Robb jumps up to that 13th position. He's one driver for sure that has found a little extra speed out of those red softer tires. And look at Ferrucci, P11 right now, that AJ Foyt camp. So that's a little encouragement for them as well.
Devlin DiFrancesco currently 12th, wondering what the purpose was or what the outcome was and what adjustments will need to be made, Davey. Interesting to note, Scott McLaughlin 14th, Joseph Newgarden 16th, Will Power in the 17th position. For Andretti, Grosjean 18th, Kirkwood is 19th. Elio Castroneves is currently 20th. Simon Pagenaud is 27th quick. And for Ed Carpenter Racing, Ritas VK 25th quick. And Ryan Hunter-Ray 26th quick. So some teams probably have a lengthy debrief ahead of them, Davey, and some planning to do before they get back to the racetrack tomorrow.
Yeah, boy, and we see what teams that they are. And even Andretti, they're not that stellar. They have a few cars up towards the top, and Will Power surprisingly in that 17th position, Newgarden in 16th, and even Dixon in 15th. So there's going to be a lot of debrief going on for sure, trying to figure out, why some of the teammates like Pillow and Dixon aren't closer together. And then like say the Andretti side, we got Colton in 8th, but then you got some of his teammates, Grosjean in 18th. So a lot of work. But right now, Simon Pagenaud, he is not going to be happy with being the last of the field, 27th out of the 27 cars.
Santino Ferrucci, 12th fastest, 1:42.872. Michael Young.
Well, he's talking to Larry Foyt, just assessing that practice session. Santino, you had off, and then you still go fast. I guess that's the way you roll.
Yeah, I mean, we're putting a lot of work into the road course program right now. Obviously, Detroit was not anything into what we wanted. Did a little bit of reevaluating. We thought we were pretty good in the GP, and come here, top 15 right now. I know I can do better. And I know we can find some time in this car, so it's a great starting point.
Talk about the GP and a smoother Indianapolis Motor Speedway road course. Did the smoothness of this circuit and the repave help you today?
Yeah, for sure. I think we're definitely, with these tracks getting repaved and being smoother now in the series, it helps us find a baseline for us being such a small team. But yeah, no, it's nice to not start the weekend 3 seconds off and only be missing about 6/10 to lead.
Nice job today.
Thank you.
We'll see him tomorrow. That's Santino Ferrucci, guys.
Hey, good stuff all throughout the show. Michael Young, we appreciate the input. The director of IndyCar Radio is Chris Pollock. On-site engineering and production, courtesy of Rick Evans. Master control operations in our Indianapolis studios, courtesy of Chris Pollock. For Michael Young and Davey Hamilton, this is Mark James. Again, Rossi, Malukas, Pillow, Dixon, Award, the top 5. Practice session number 1 to the books. The Sanzio Grand Prix at Road America, presented by...